So basically our project is going to consist of a index.html file, which is going to have a login screen. And then we will have a employees.html. We're going to list in all the employees. Then we will have a jobs list.html where we can list all the jobs. And then we will have a dash.html. Now this is going to be the dashboard where we can easily link to the employees or the jobs list. So let's create first our index.html. So I'm going to click on new. I'm going to call this as index.html. And I'm going to type in HTML5. Let's save that. And let's get to the browser. And here I'm going to go to getbootstrap.com. And from here we'll get to the docs, and then we'll get the CDN links. So this time I'm going to use this bootstrap bundle.min.js. I'm going to just copy this. Let's get back here. And here what we're going to do is we're going to say script src and then paste it. Okay. And next what we need is a CSS file. So I'm just going to copy this and get to our code. And here we're going to type in link relative to style sheet, and then I'm going to paste that bootstrap min.css. So once we have this, let's run this in the browser. For this, what we can do is you can just type in go live. And this is our document right now. It doesn't have anything. Okay, so we can start writing our login page now. So let's get back to our code, and here I'm going to change the document title to login page. Let's save that. And for the body, I'm going to give a class. I'm going to call this as bg light. That's going to add a background color for that, like a light background color. And now the next thing what we need is a container, and inside that container we need to add the login screen or the login form. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in a container. I'm going to say div.container, and inside that container we'll say div.row, and I want a justify content center here, so I'm going to call this as justify content center. And then inside that I'm going to say div.call md4, and here we're going to create a div.card, and for this card we're going to add a shadow, and I want a large shadow, so I'm going to call this as shadow LG. Then I'm going to give some spacing on the top, that is MT5. Okay, so this is our card. Now let's get to the browser. Let's see how that looks. You can see this is our card, doesn't have anything yet, but if you start adding some details, you'll see some changes. So first thing, I'm going to add a card header. So I'm going to say div.card header. Then I'm going to call this as text bg primary. And then I'm going to call this as login to continue. Let's save that. Now let's get to the browser. You can see that we have the shadow and we have this thing. So one thing is, like, I can't see the background color. So what did I do wrong? Okay, so this one, that is text bg primary. So now I can see the background color. So now we can add in the card body. So let's get back here and type in div.card body, and inside that we are going to create our form. So I'm going to say form, and we don't need an action right now, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And here we will create our floating form. So it's going to be div.form floating, and then I'm going to give some margin bottom, call this as MB3, and inside this we're going to type in input type is text. I'm going to give a class. I'm going to call this as form control, and then we'll specify an ID for this. I'm going to call this as user underscore name, and then we'll give a placeholder. I'm going to give a placeholder as John Doe. And then when the user gets here, I want, like, when the user opens this page, I want him to automatically get to that field. So I'm going to call this as autofocus. Okay, so in this way, like, user doesn't have to click that, the cursor will be automatically highlighted there. Let me show you what I mean. If I get back here you can see it's already highlighted. So he doesn't have to click here. So as soon as the page is loaded, the cursor is already there. Let's get back to our code. And now we need to still add the placeholder there. And for this, we're going to say label. And the label for is username. And here we will give this as username. Save that. Let's see how that looks. If I get back here, I can see we have username. If I click outside, that's going to show username there. And if I click here, that's going to just move up. Now let's add the password field. So let's get back here. And what we can do is we can just copy this entire thing and paste it over here. And I'm going to change this one to password. Save that. And the ID is going to be password. Save that. And here I'm going to set the placeholder to star, or one more star. Okay, I don't need the autofocus here, so I can get rid of this one. And for the label, I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. And we'll call this as password. Let's save that. Let's see how that looks. Let's get to the browser. So we have username. If I click on the password, you can type in the password. So this is how it looks. Next, we need the check button here called remember me button. So I'm going to get back to our code. And here, we're going to type in div.form check. And then we're going to add MB3 there. And inside this, we're going to say input type is checkbox. And then we'll give a class. And for this class, we'll say form check input. Okay, so let's save that. And we need to set a for. So I'm going to set this to remember me. Okay. And the next thing what I need is the label. So I'm going to set the label to remember me. And then we're going to give a class for this. We will call this form check label. And we're going to give some value for this. I'm going to call this as remember me. Let's save that. Let's see how that looks. Let's get to the browser. You can see we have username, we have password, and then we have this remember me checkbox here. The next thing what we need is a simple login button. Now the one button which we need here is the full width button. So we want the button to completely take this place. Let's get back to our code. And right after this form check, we are going to create another div. And we're going to call this as dgrid. And inside this, we can say button. I'm going to set the class of this button to btn success. Then we'll set the type to submit. And here we need to call this as login to continue. Let's save that. If I get to the browser, you can see that we have this login to continue button. Now we need an icon here. So what we can do is we can get back to the browser here and we can actually look for some really good icons. So I'm going to look for an icon called login. So scroll down and here, let's type in login. And you can see that we have a lot of options. So usually the right sign is actually the login button. So I'm just going to copy this SVG. Let's get back here and give some space, paste it. So give some space here, and then we'll just align this properly. So save that. Let's see how that looks. If I get to the browser, you can see that we have the login button now.